Jack Leslie. There's a defining story about the life and times of Jack Leslie, who was a prolific striker and creator of goals, scoring over 400 from 1921 to 1934. Not unsurprisingly, this made him a candidate for the England team. His manager, Bob Jack, informed him that he'd been selected to play for England. This wouldn't have been by a manager, but by a sort of selection committee. He later received a communication cancelling his call-up on the grounds that the selectors hadn't realised he was a man of colour. Jack Leslie remarked later that they must have forgotten I was a coloured boy. So in my educational work, when I mentioned or repeated this anecdote to young kids and teenagers, they're absolutely outraged by it. You know, that's not right, that's unfair. An example of racism, of unfairness in its simplest form. So for me, I quickly realised that the combination of a visual image with anecdote and information was a very, very powerful formula indeed. So if I can move on to my charcoal portrait of Jack Leslie. Here's Jack, and you can see he has this marvellous pompadour hairstyle. This was a big step for me, this drawing. It may not seem so, but I created the pompadour hairstyle using a brush laden with charcoal in a very free and gestural way, very vague way of working. But it was a big step for me, as was the face, which I actually mucked up. I sprayed on some adhesive instead of a fixative, and I had to rework the face using sandpaper, which again was another formula which I've used ever since. So for a variety of reasons, this was a very successful piece of work for me, and a powerful portrait of Jack. If I can move over to another image that I created of Jack, this was based on an idea I had much earlier. I don't normally do sketches, but I did one of this idea, content over decoration, I think, of Jack's face being sort of wiped off, which was the sort of silencing of him and his England cap. So a few years later, I completed this large portrait of Jack. Again, I've used quite a lot of marks and different types of mark in the hair and in the face, and it did take quite a bit of courage, because I spent at least a couple of hours drawing the mouth and then sanded it off. So, but the statements, the content was the most important thing. So again, I'm quite pleased with that image, because it's a powerful image that says the message of what I'm trying to say about Jack Leslie. If I can just talk sort of anecdotally for a minute or so. I remember when I was working at the art school that a cleaner came in to see me early in the morning. He said, "Carl, I've got you this book," which was really very, very kind. I had a lot of support from genuine football supporters about my project. He gave me this book that he got from the library, and it was valuable information by the journalist Brian Woolnough. And he remarked about the story, which I already knew, but in a lot greater detail, and also about Jack's later life, where he worked at West Ham United as a boot boy, which I felt was unbecoming really of such a marvellous footballer as Jack Leslie to end up sort of cleaning boots. But there you go, that's life sometimes. If I can just finish off with his daughter, Jack's daughter Evelyn recalls his father's disappointment about the rescinded England call-up. She remarks, "It would have been the icing on the cake, but it was taken away from him. He had a lot of disappointments because of his colour." On the other side, the Jack Leslie campaign has raised over £100,000 to create a bronze statue of Jack Leslie, which will be situated in Plymouth. So, the truth will out.